Assalamu alaikum to all my students and my followers and my subscribers. Thank you so much for being so patient. I know you people had to wait a lot for arrival of a new video or a new lecture. So today's our topic is about culture. What is culture, where it basically came from, and how it can be either in the societies in different passages of times. So let it be start. Well, to sociologists, culture is made up of all the ideas, beliefs, behaviors, your products transferred from one generation to another, which are basically common and defining a group's way of life in any of the society. Let me tell you, let me tell you that culture is made up of all our ideas. These are basically the thinking, these are basically the thoughts, these are basically the way outs and our beliefs, which are basically the tenets of our lives, our behaviors and products. These all the things are basically transferred from one generation to another, and that's how we basically have an idea about our culture because we had noticed, we had observed our ancestors, our previous generations, the way they were doing, we actually were supposed to do like that. So culture encompasses everything humans create and have as they interact together. In fact, the shapes the way we see the world. Whatsoever is there in the society, in the world, it is basically a part of our culture, whether these are buildings, whether these are our dressings, whether these are our food patterns, and these are the creations of human beings. This is what basically we create. These are not the kind of phenomena that are naturally been there. Some of them are obviously the natural parts of the society, but ultimately we as human beings shape them in our ways, the way we wanted to see them. So because culture varies widely across the world, so there might be sometimes for an individual or a group of people that they came across certain situations in which they don't have an idea what to practice or what not to practice. So it referred to then a cultural shock. A cultural shock is basically a confusion that occurs when encountering an unfamiliar situation and ways of life. For example, if a person is moving from a traditional society to a modern society, it would be a cultural shock for him because the traditional society is not observing social changes or social practices up to that extent, which is basically existing in the modern world. So he or she may face a cultural shock over there because that specific individual will obviously encounter an unfamiliar situation that was not a part of his or her culture previously, where actually he came from. So it can either be domestically, it can either be a kind of phenomenon that will be associated with the global culture. Like in Pakistan, for example, we are having multiple cultures. We have a diversity of cultures. So if we are moving from one unit of the Pakistan to another unit, it will have a lot of differences over there. So the person is moving from the parent culture to the another culture will face that shock, will face that confusion that what is to practice and what not to practice at that time because culture varies widely. So let's have some definitions about the culture through some very renowned sociologists like Emile Durkheim, like Edward Taylor, like Karl Marx. To Durkheim, how he understand the culture, it is basically the mutual ability to perceive the reality in a certain manner. This is a kind of phenomena which is being perceived by the persons, which is being perceived by a group of people or an individual, the way he wanted to see the society, the way he wanted to act actually. For Durkheim, culture is the first and foremost medium through which a collective entity presents itself and to itself and gains a sense of its own existence. It is basically phenomena now that basically presents one specific community, one specific group of people, ways of life, and their existence, how they are different from others, how they are so specific from to another culture, to specific community, to a specific group of people. So it is the first and foremost medium through which we present ourselves. According to Taylor, culture is that complex whole which includes our knowledges, our beliefs, our arts, law, morals, customs, and any other capability and habits acquired by a man as a member of the society. Uh, to be honest, culture is that much broad phenomena that we cannot even encompass its definition in a single lecture. So these are some of the very squeezed and some specific definition which I am trying to elaborate in front of you. So complex whole, it is a complex whole that actually encompasses the whole society, the whole actually place where we are living. It includes our knowledges, it includes our ideas, it includes our beliefs, it is consisted of our arts, it is consisted of our laws, our morals, customs, and some of the very other capabilities and habits acquired by the members of the society through their socializations, through their interactions, and through their having different social experiences. It is not limited to a man. Obviously, as soon as we are moving in the society or in different societies, our culture will be changed. For Marx, he argued that culture served to justify inequality. We will having some lectures towards the Marx philosophy in some next days. So you would have an idea. He has a critical opinion about the society. So the a view is basically being portrayed from this definition as well, that culture has served to justify the inequality from the society. The ruling class, in his opinion, or the bourgeoisie, produces a culture. Bourgeoisie are basically the upper class people, produces a culture that promotes their interest while repressing the interest of the proletariats or the working class or the lower class. His most famous line to the effect is that religion is the opium of the people. It is basically kind of phenomena in which he believed that we are having some of the feelings through such phenomena to be like contented, to be like having equal rights, or be remain in a fetishism or in a illusion, are an illusion. So to Marx is basically his culture is what that is by implemented of the ruling class of the society. So next is basically the types of culture. Generally, we segregated the culture into two types. That is the material or the non-material culture. Material culture is basically that is in front of you, that you can feel, that you can touch, that you physically is basically appealing to your eyes. Material culture is concerned with the external, mechanical, and utilitarian objects. It can be easily communicated and makes our life more comfortable, luxurious, and meaningful. Thus, material culture has the extrinsic values like housing, fashion, food patterns, technology, even. So, material culture presents the whole apparatus of life or civilization, because I had already discussed that it is a part of a culture which is basically been physically available in front of you. So if it is being modified for the benefit of the mankind, so it can soothe the life of the people, the societies, and the communities as well. The other one is non-material culture, which includes our concepts, our ideas, our belief systems, our values, our morals, and things monogamy. These are some of the philosophies which are basically in our mind but a part of culture, because we are living a life based on some of our perceptions, our thoughts, our ideas, so our philosophies even. So it contains monogamy is a kind of systematic philosophy, democracy, like that, worship, the rituals we perform, our values we had already discussed. But material cultural traits, let me tell you that material cultural traits changes at a rapid pace than that of non-material culture. Please do understand that it is very important to understand that over the last few decades, our material culture evolves in a very faster pace than that of the non-material culture, because our ideologies may not be changed up to that extent than that of the material culture, like our vehicles, like our buildings, like our art, like our food patterns. But material and non-material culture does not changes, especially in the traditional societies where social change evolves in a very slow pace. So what happens next? Because of the material cultural changes happening in the faster pace, it may cause a cultural lag. What is now cultural lag? A gap which occurs as different aspects of culture changes at different rates. When material culture is basically changing, it obviously affect the non-material values as well. So the rate of change in the material culture, in other words, is basically denoting the phenomena of cultural lag. The change occurs in this process may changes the traditional values or aspects of a culture, even through exists even though exists in a society but considered as controversial. Some material cultural changes are a part of now our culture, but once they might be considered as controversial, like some of the technological advancement, which basically inflicts our non-material values. Like one of the changes happened way back in 1996 when the first experiment of cloning was being performed. Though it was being performed on the he, but initially it really found a resistance from those societies which are considered as contemporary societies of today's world. But regularly changes, social changes observed those societies has now become a part of the cultures. So it is important not to confuse the sociological use of the word culture within the popular usage of the term. Now, culture in our daily based understanding is having some different meanings, as it is being used by the sociologist or a common man in the society. In everyday usage, may someone might be referred to as having culture. They are having different cultures. A lot of people are there in the society, communities, different groups, so they are having different cultures, or being some of the person which are associated as cultured people, cultured societies, cultured communities, or cultured group, or someone may be either referred as uncultured. But in sociological understanding, everyone has a culture. Whosoever is even having a claim that he or she has not a culture is basically that is their culture. So thank you so much for